Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Andy Serwer on the line, and he's editor-in-chief over at Yahoo Finance. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam.
So just want to get the interview started by maybe giving us a little bit more of a background. Obviously, everybody knows who Yahoo Finance is. Just a little bit more background on your role there.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. I am the editor-in-chief of Yahoo Finance, which means I'm in charge of everything editorial here, all the coverage and the reporters and the writers and producers, and, you know, the stories that we tell. And so I've been here about 5 years, and it's been really exciting. We have the biggest platform in business news with, you know, over 70 million monthly unique users and over 9 million daily users. And we have 8 hours of live market coverage. We provide all kinds of great tech stories. We're doing podcasts, some long-form stuff. We're all over social media. And it's just a really exciting and dynamic place to work.
So you have, I mean, in my opinion, one of, if not the most interesting vantage point in media when it comes to finance, just being on top of such a large platform. What kind of interesting trends have you noticed, just in general, in terms of data distribution, you know, over the top? I mean, what interests you in the space?
Yeah, I mean, the distribution part is so fascinating, and obviously that's just changed radically with the digital revolution. But, you know, it's not a static thing, Adam. It changes all the time. So, you know, at first, early days was websites with text. And then, of course, you know, we've got video. And now, you know, we're looking at sort of, and then social media, everything being distributed, of course, on Facebook and Google SEO and LinkedIn and Reddit and everything like that, and Twitter, of course. But, you know, what I'm seeing right now, for instance, is such a strong move to push alerts and notifications. And I was just talking to some journalism students at the University of North Carolina this week, and I asked them, how are they getting their news? And they said alerts and notifications. And whereas 3 years ago, they would have said their Facebook news feed. And so now, you know, those types of changes in digital formats engender all kinds of changes in the workflows for us. Now, the constant is the news gathering and the judgments and the reporting and the writing, but the distribution is continuously changing.
No, I love it. And so this may sound self-serving, but it's really not, Andy. I got a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of podcasters out there. Tell us more about the podcasting space. Am I wasting my time with spending all this time doing podcasts? Tell me. I need your opinion.
Come on, podcasts are great, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing them, Adam.
I love them. I know.
Listen, you know as well as I do, podcasts are kind of a revolution. It's a new way to communicate and get information out. And what's interesting about podcasts is it actually works and resonates with all types of generations, older people and younger people. I mean, you know, The Daily with Michael Barbaro at the New York Times was an unexpectedly smash hit for younger people with the Times. Mm-hmm. Now, the one downside, of course, as I'm sure you also know, is that there are an awful lot of podcasts. And so it's challenging to cut through the clutter to make your voice heard, and then the monetization issues are there as well.
No, I love it. Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially for a lot of business owners listening, a lot of finance guys, you know, a lot of people that are on Yahoo Finance getting their news, and a lot of them are launching podcasts. And I'm like, because it's not, you don't have to compare yourself to like you said, The Daily, which it's a smash. I mean, you don't have to be Joe Rogan. All you have to do is have a message for your particular audience and that wants to hear you. It could be your clients, it could be your set, but I see it as just being able to build a relationship with that one-to-many without all of the, let's just say, the burden of video and all the other production.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I think that, you know, making sure you're differentiated and distinctive is really important. And I think, you know, we've seen a lot of new people sort of come to the fore and become prominent through that, which is also really refreshing.
So, and this isn't really a loaded question, but I could preface it that way. So, what's next? I mean, Yahoo's always innovating, doing different things. What's next, or what do you think is the next interesting thing in terms of distribution?
Well, I think it's understanding that things are not going to stay the same. I mean, that's the most important thing. So to me, I don't necessarily know what it is, Adam, but I know that we have to remain flexible, because if you stake too much on one form of distribution, it will end up biting you potentially. I mean, just think about Facebook, right? Like all these media outlets that built their business based on Facebook as a platform and a wonderful form of distribution. Like it reminds me of those little fish swimming along with those giant whale sharks. Like, oh, this is great. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, like the whale shark in this case just, I don't know, swallowed them, but just said, you know what, bug off. Just bug off. And so Facebook has proven to be, very much of a mixed bag and capricious when it comes to supporting publishers. We've seen that time and time again. And, I've seen new sort of distribution, digital media outlets and social media guys come in here and say, oh, you have to support this. You need to hire 12 people to support your efforts here. And it's like, that's a black hole. So figuring out, for instance, alerts and push notifications right now, which of course we do, that speaks to a couple things we're looking at, which is logged in users, and that speaks to also, paywalls. It speaks to, converting people who are getting those push notifications and then clicking open and opening the articles, and then understanding personalization versus curation here. In other words, oh, this person only looks at stories about cavers being lost in a cave in Kentucky. That's not really the case. That's a wrong signal. They're just interested in cool, weird stories. Mm-hmm. So, they need to know that. And so there's a lot of different, sort of tension points that we need to sort of decide and decipher going forward.
Any comments on the advertising side of things? A lot of people were shook with the new cookies thing, and is that going to change advertising? What that looks like going forward? I mean, just any comments in general on that?
Let me tell you something. Advertising is a tough business, and I really feel for the people in the building here who are doing that, not because they have a particularly rougher time than anywhere else, but just because it's just hard generally. I mean, first of all, prices are always declining in the digital realm when it comes to advertising. People look for new formats, but then, they're copied by everyone else. And, then, of course, Facebook and Google have taken a lot of ad dollars away from everyone else. There's no doubt about that. And then, I'm not even speaking to, sort of the technological issues that you mentioned in terms of things like cookies and, new guidelines being issued by, say, digital publishers or through SEO or through social. So
content creation, and we'll kind of end on this one because I know you're a busy guy, Andy. Content creation. Let's talk a little bit about what it takes to create good content. What do you look for?
I'm so glad you asked that. And, people say content creation, they say storytelling, I call it, reporting and communicating. And, it's just critical. I always say it's not that hard. What's a really great story to you? I mean, sometimes people will come in and say, oh, this story, it'll be good for someone. And they're like, are you really interested in that? And they're like, well, not me. I wouldn't. I'm not. Well, then don't do it. I mean, it's got to be something that just grabs you. Like I said, I was in North Carolina, and these people were telling me about red foxes in North Carolina. Wolves. Wolves. Never mind foxes. I'm sure there are foxes in North Carolina. But they told me that they had reintroduced wolves into North Carolina. And I was like, really? Now, I want to read about that story. I want to read about wolves. Don't you? We're going to both look that up right after we get off this podcast. That's news. That's a story. And then, how great do you make that story? Do you find a biologist who introduced the wolves? You find the farmer who lost some sheep? You find people who love the wolves? I mean, it's just right there in front of you. Right now, we're going wall to wall with the coronavirus and how it's affecting the markets and, the fear and, you hope the redemption that will come at some point. It's just, that's the core of it, is the stories and creating these, creating the content that drives the site.
Man, I love it, Andy. Great stuff there. And now you had to go pique my curiosity. Now I'm going to have to get somebody on here that's working with wolves. That's one of the reasons I'm a podcaster, because I have that endless want to learn some new stuff. So there you go. Now I'm on another tangent. Well, enough of that. So, Andy, really appreciate your time today and coming on the show and sharing more about all the great work you're doing over at Yahoo Finance. So thank you for that. And to the audience,
thanks, Adam. And get that wolf story.
I'm going to get it. You'll see. You'll get an email. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you had a lot of fun listening. We had fun making this and bringing this to you. If you did, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Andy, thanks again for coming on.